The #1 tank. A Soviet workhorse that changed the course of a war, stopping an army in its tracks.
Hello, and welcome to the first Steel Division 2 Divisional Overview, a series where we take a look at every single division in SD2 and showcase how to actually use them effectively. And for our first run, we're going to be taking a look at the 2nd Guard Tank Corps, an A-tier Russian tank division with lots of T-34s. If you're new to this series, this video is pretty much split in two parts, where the first half we're going to be taking a look at the actual deck composition, looking at units and see what you can bring up and talking about unit strengths and weaknesses. The second part of the video is where we're going to be watching a replay, preferably a 1v1, and showcasing how to actually use a division and the units within it effectively in an actual match. So anyway, without all the way out the way, if I can actually speak English, let's get going. So, 2nd Guard Tank Corps is pretty decent. You've got a lot of tanks, pretty good slots and everything else, but a bit lackluster in recon and anti-air. So well, let's jump right into the recon. So for recon, you got your pretty standard Russian options. You got a recon motorbike. I really like these guys. A little bit too easy to kill and to spot. You do get a decent amount per card, but yeah, just not really my cup of tea. I haven't really seen anyone use these all that effectively. And then you got your 3 main recon infantry options. You got 2-man squad, you got a 4-man squad, and then you got an 8-man squad with a bazooka. These guys are pretty cool because they have a bazooka. They're kind of like a recon Panzerschreck team in a sense, but with a bazooka. But it's rather nice now because it does have 250 meter range compared to SD44 where it's only had 200 meter range. So it definitely helps out quite a bit. In terms of recon transport options, let's take a look at 2-man squad. We got some pretty nice transports. We got a few BA-64s, we got a few M3A1 Devkas with a 50 cal machine gun, and apart from that we got your pretty standard unarmed transports. We got jeeps, we got WC-52s, a lot of Studebakers, some bikes, all that standard stuff. And the nice thing about these two transports here, the armed transports, is that they have high recon optics, meaning you can use them as a standard recon vehicle, and because it's an armed vehicle, they won't disappear when you unload your infantry. So they're pretty cool, as pretty much like a 2-for-1 bonus, as you get a recon infantry squad, as well as an actual recon vehicle. Yeah, it's a little bit lightly armoured or armed, compared to some proper recon vehicles you can get, such as the BA-10, which is, it's pretty alright. It's nothing really all that amazing. It doesn't have any HE cells, unfortunately, so it's pretty terrible in the infantry support role, but for 25 points, and you get a decent amount of M per card unvetted, so you can't really complain too much. And then you got a T-34 recon tank. These guys they're alright. Once again, you don't get a huge amount of them, but sticking them in with your T-34 force to actually have eyes on the enemy is definitely rather useful. You know, the tough thing with recon in this division is that you really do not get many slots, and it gets rather expensive rather quickly, so you don't want to be spending too many points here, even though you kind of want to. So in infantry, the infantry options is your pretty standard Russian infantry options for a mechanized /tank division. So we got Sapori PPSHs, which is a 4-man SMG squad with TNT and Panzerfaust. They're pretty nice. They die rather easily, unfortunately, and you don't get a huge amount of them considering the actual strength of the infantry, but they're not bad. And if we just take a look at, as selecting this unit here, so we can see all the regular infantry transports. Once again, it's pretty nice. The 2 main infantry transports you want to be using are the M2 and the Studebaker. Both of them are great options. The M2 is a little bit slower on-road, but faster on the road, and it's also armoured, or faster off-road, and slightly slower on the road compared to the Studebaker, which is pretty fast on the road. Unfortunately, having nothing really too fast with large transport capabilities, which is pretty standard for the Russians. The Germans have the Opel Blitz, which goes 90 kilometers an hour, and it can carry large infantry squads. So you're usually not going to be the first to the front line with your infantry during a regular conquest match, which is a bit of a shame. The Jeeps are pretty nice for smaller squads, as they are, I think, one of the fastest transports in the game. And for the love of God, do not get the ZIS 42. It's really slow, and do not get the ZIS 5. It's also a bit slow, and honestly, the Studebaker is just a better choice in pretty much every way. It's just faster on the road. The Discom thing I've never really found too much of a use for, as it's unarmored. It's just just dies a bit quickly. And the 50 cal half tracks are also nice. A little bit expensive for my blood, but not too bad, to be entirely honest. So for other regular infantry options, we got Tank Desanitki. I'm probably have a hard time pronouncing a lot of these, pretty much a lot of the units in general, so I do apologise in advance. These guys they're alright. You get a good amount of them, which is cool, and you can get them unvetted if you just want to get a lot. They're a little bit smaller compared to an Aftermachiki squad, and they do have smoke, which does help you getting closer to the enemy, but they're nothing really all that fancy. You only get them with half-track options, which is pretty standard. And you got your regular guards unit, which is pretty much a standard infantry squad. 2 PPSHs, 8 Mosins, and a DP-28. They do rather large at 11 men, and you got some good transport options for them as well. Nice thing is you can really spam him in sea phase. 27 unvetted. You're not going to be running out of guards infantry units, that's for sure. For leaders, we got Avta Comrati, we got GV Comrati, which is kind of the same thing as smoke grenades. We got Tanko Comratis, which have anti-tank grenades, and Sapari leaders, which suffer Panzerfaust, which is a rather nice option. I mean, all leaders are pretty good. I'm a big fan of GV Comratis, because once you get into B phase, boom, 8 per card. Now, that's a lot of leaders. And if you really take the C phase run, you got 12 per card. So that's rather nice. We also got Aftermachikis, which are one of my favourite infantry squads for these shorter divisions, as they just tear shit up at close range. 10 PPSHs and a lot of anti-tank grenades. And anti-tank grenades are now actually pretty nice because they have the 100-meter range. You can actually kill quite a few armoured vehicles with these chaps. They're rather cheap at 25 points, considering the just absolute devastation at close range. And you got nice infantry transport options for them as well. They're a little bit harder to micro. It's the one problem with Aftermachikis, is getting in close. In forest, you're pretty much going to be fine most of the time, as you can just rush up and kill anything. Unless it's a flamethrower squad, those guys can mess you up. And I also find STG squads can also mess you up, as they usually have that 20-meter engagement distance, where they can start shooting at you, and goddamn, STGs are extremely powerful. But Aftermachikis are great, and once again, you can get a lot of them, and they also have a baseline 1-star veterancy, so they're honestly not that bad, and even at 2-star veterancy, you still get a good amount per card. Just a little bit hard to micro. Guard DPs are awesome. They're awesome, as they pretty much sacrifice a PPSH for another DP-28, and they also add in an anti-tank rifle. These are fantastic infantry units to have. Once again, you can get a huge amount of them just like regular guards. They are a little bit more expensive at 5 points more, but the anti-tank rifle is really huge, as it allows you to snipe incoming transports before they get close, or other light vehicles, and heck, even tanks. If you can flank a Panzer IV or Stug, you may not necessarily kill it with the AT rifle, but you can get some pretty damn good crits. Even frontally, you can get some pretty decent crits. Shoot out the sights, maybe injure a loader, the gunner, driver, whatever. The anti-tank rifle is definitely nice, especially on a regular infantry squad, and the DP-28 is also pretty good at long-range infantry engagements. So these guys mixing with Aftermachikis, you've got Aftermachikis for close range and guard TPs for long range. Speaking of long range as well, Saparis are also fantastic units as well. Seriously, they're really bloody good, as they got a lot of SVTs. They're great at short range, because you got the good semi-automatic and automatic SMGs. You got a DP-28 for long range, not all that great compared to the guard DPs to a DP-28, but still, not a bad machine gun, as well as TNT for getting up close and personal. So, a very good squad. You don't get a huge amount of M per card compared to the guards, for example. A little less spammable, especially if you take them with 1-star veterancy. But these are a pretty elite squad. Those SVTs definitely help out in firefights. Semi-automatic rifles in general in this game are really good. And you got a decent amount of infantry slots as well, so I usually find you have more than enough infantry for the majority of the time. Okay, tanks, it's pretty simple. It's just T-34s. It's only T-34s. It's a lot of T-34s. So you got T-34-76s, you got 1943, 1942 model. The only real major difference between them is a 43 model has worse frontal armor, and it's 5 points cheaper. They're both pretty good. I mean, the worse frontal and side armor doesn't really make that much of a difference, I find. But with these 76 model T-34s, you can spam a lot of them. As you can see, you can get a good amount, and they're really cheap. For like 45 or 50 points for a good tank, and they have decent AP and HE ammunition, speed, decent armor. They're really... I'm not going to say the backbone. I'd argue that the 85 models are really more of the backbone of your tank force. But for just throwing a tank somewhere to give your infantry a bit of infantry support, deal with light vehicles, you can't go wrong with T-34-76s. And then you got T-34-85, 43 and 44 model. The only real difference between the both is the 44 model has APCR shells. And for 5 points more for the APCR shells, it makes a big difference, as they do 180mm to pan and even have better accuracy compared to the regular AP shells. They're good. They're very good. And once again, you can get a lot of T-34-76s per card. A lot of it more generous with the 1943 models compared to the 44 models. The C-phase difference is not that great. You get 15 44s in C and only 16 in 43s in C, so it's not that much of a difference. But the B phase difference is a bit more larger, as you get 6 44s in B and 8 43s in B. So, pretty good. I'd usually recommend taking 1944 models as much as you can over the 43s, as those APCR cells do make quite a big difference, I find. As it gives you extra AP, so you only do have regular 10 AP cells to begin with, so you do have a bit of extra anti-tank ammunition for dealing with tanks, and that's really what you're going to be getting these guys out for the most part. And especially if you find against a more heavy Panzer division with Panthers and Tigers, you're probably going to want those APCR cells. You know, the AP is still pretty good at 145mm penetration. The only real downside of these T-34s is they don't have much in terms of AP, they have much more in terms of high explosive ammunition, and you get a lot of them. 5 cards of the 43s and 4 cards of the 44. This is one of those divisions where you're not going to run out of tanks if you just play your cards right. You also have leader versions of 76 T-34s and 85 T-34s, which is also nice as well. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just T-34 spam. Support, you got some nice options. Augmentchiki, which is pretty much 2-man flamethrower squad. I find it very nice to have, especially in A-phase, to augment your infantry in A-phase, get some better close-range fire support. Flamethrowers are always nice, and the nice thing is you can get them in zippy jeeps, so you can get them to the front line as soon as possible, and get them into a good ambush position before the Germans and the Opel Blitzes move up. Maxim machine gun's pretty trash. I never really recommend taking a Maxim. Take the SG-43 instead. It's 5 points more, it has better range and a better fire rate. You get a bit less of them compared to the Maxims in all honesty, but that extra range I think really does make a bit of difference as well as the fire rate. This support gun, OB-25, I find to be pretty mediocre, especially in a division that already has good tank and anti-tank capabilities. The heat cells are not really going to come in all that handy. And the HE cell is the same thing. Once again, you just use T-34-76s, as it's 10 points more in its armor. It doesn't have as much HE damage with the HE cells. It only does 1 HE damage compared to 2 HE damage of support guns. But it's armored and mobile, a T-34, so... And it also has a machine gun. So yeah. Studebakers are the only supply options. Yeah, regular supply trucks. They're rather nice. For command units, you got command infantry, you got an M2 command track in B, and an M3 command half track. Half track truck in C. So pretty standard stuff. The main thing with command infantry is you'd always want to take them in an armed transport. In this case, the Duscum, for example. And so you can just keep yours next to your command infantry, and if you need to relocate them to a new area, put them in the transport, and away you go. And then we got the beast, the ISU-152. Thankfully, the AP cells no longer nuke. Well, I guess unfortunately for you, that they no longer nuke 6 Panzer IVs in one shot anymore. But it's still a pretty hefty vehicle. It does a lot of HE damage for a direct fire support gun. It also acts as an artillery zerber, if I recall, so that's also pretty useful. These are definitely nice units to have out. I like getting them out earlier rather than later, as just the extra fire support helps out quite a bit. And they're also pretty well armored. They're 125mm of frontal armor. I believe they are the most heavily armored tanks that you can get, yes they are. So that's rather nice. I mean, they can still get killed by Tigers and Panthers, of course, but that armor is pretty good. And the AP cells, not the most accurate, but when they hit a tank, our tank is usually dead, and it has good armor penetration as well. These guys are very nice to have to help augment your tank forces, such as your T-34 spam, really, to give you the extra infantry fire support, or fire support to blow up infantry units and bunkers, anti-tank guns, etc. They're very nice. They are very nice. Anti-tank. You don't really use the anti-tank tab, I find, in this division all that much, as your T-34-85s kind of just fill in that role, as they're already pretty good anti-tank units. But you got PTRSs. I like these guys a lot, because you can get them in the rather fast Jeep transport, and you can get them to the front line and load them somewhere, and snipe infantry transports before they get to you. I really like PTRSs for that. Once again, not the best penetration, but you can get some pretty good criticals in tanks. You just got a Panzer Strike Squad, which is pretty cool. I never really find myself using these guys all too often anyway, as I much prefer to have an anti-tank gun. They're a little bit hard to micro, especially the micro attacks that SD2 has, so I kind of avoid them. 45mm AT guns, I'm actually a really big fan of them, as you can get them with pretty good veterancy and with a rather high number. And even though, yes, they don't have the best penetration of the APCR cells, which you only got 4 of, you have 100mm pen. You also got to realise that with APCR cells, you do less damage when you penetrate the enemy tank. For example, if you penetrate enemy tank, you do 5 HE damage with AP, but with APCR, you only do 1 damage. And each of the tanks have a hidden HE, or HP value. I think it's usually somewhere between 8 or 12 HP, depending on the size of the tank. So you got to keep it in mind. But still, penetrating a tank and getting a good critical hit, and sometimes you can roll and get an ammo rack critical and blow the tank up in one shot is pretty good. So you do got to keep it in mind. But nonetheless, when I'm talking about this gun, I really like him a lot. Just due to the fact is that they shoot relatively fast, and I'm trying to think of the words here real fast. And because even though you're not going to penetrate more heavily armored tanks, you can usually get good critical hits on them. And they're very cheap at 35 points, especially in B phase, you can get a decent amount. You also got the CS2, which is your more heavy duty anti-tank, Russian anti-tank gun, I should say. The APCR cells do a lot of penetration damage, and even the AP cells are, they're not that great, but still, it's not all that bad. Once again, good rate of fire on an AT gun. It's kind of like the Russian 6-pounder. Then you got the CS3, which is a multi-purpose gun, as you can also use it as an artillery gun, which is pretty cool. It's a lot worse off when it comes to the anti-tank department, but nothing too terrible. The APCR cells is definitely the big weakness compared to the ZIS-2, but ZIS-3s are still not all that bad. Then you got some SU-85s. These are more dedicated anti-tank units, as you have more armor penetration cells than APCR cells. But I frankly find them to be worse off than the T-34-85s, and as they have better armor, much better armor, 40 extra millimeters. They got a lot of less worse stealth, so you can hide them better in light forests and whatnot. But honestly, the T-34s I find to be a much better option, just in general. I even believe, just looking at the fire rate, the T-34s even shoot faster than the SU-85s. And also the main thing is you get much more T-34s per card. In C phase you get 10 SU-85s, while the T-34s you get 15 of them. So yeah, you just want to take the more card efficient card in that regard. Anti-air, nothing really too fancy. You got Dushcum on the back of a truck. You got 4 Maxim guns on the back of a truck. You got the rather standard 37mm, which is definitely the best anti-air piece you can get for this division. Nice all-rounder. Also as well, you can get these with a Dushcum 50 cal transport. So for an extra 10 points, you get 2 anti-aircraft units. Even though this isn't the best anti-aircraft unit, to be entirely honest, it also provides some decent ground fire support. And then you got the American M17, which is pretty awesome, as it's mobile. It's actually a good mobile unit. Yes, these guys are mobile as well, but they're pretty pants. They provide good close-range fire support, as well as airplane fire support as well, and because it's mobile and armoured, you can keep them up with your rest of the tank forces, and do pretty well. Artillery, pretty standard stuff. You got artillerists, which are pretty worthless for the Russians. There's not a lot of the artillery, only one of the artillery pieces have radio-corrected shots. Also, you can just take leader units, which is a leader unit, as well as an artillery spotter, which is a bit more card efficient. You got 80mm mortars, but you can also just get 80mm mortars, or 82mm mortars, on the back of a bike. It has a lot less ammo, but the bike is mobile. And I believe you get the same mount. Yeah, you get the same mount per card, essentially. You can only get the bikes in A phase, but frankly, this is all you really need in A phase, I find. You can get some 76mm guns, which are alright. They're cheap. They don't really do that much damage, but they're cheap. And you can also use them as anti-tank guns if you want, but they're not really that great at the anti-tank role. 120mm mortars are always pretty nice to have, as they're pretty heavy duty. And you can get a decent amount of them, but they're no longer as good as they were pre-nerf. It wasn't really nerfed, they just fixed the bug where they didn't use any supply, essentially. But still, 120mm mortars are rather nice. Su-76s are okay. They're pretty decent. They're mobile and armoured, and they do have radio-corrected shot. You don't really going to have many units, which is going to have the radio artillery spotter, so you're probably not going to get that much corrected shots. These are pretty good to keep on near the front line, so you can just use its own 1.5 kilometer radius of radio correctedness to hit stuff. But yeah, alright. Right now they have APCR shells. I think they're going to change it sometime in the future to remove the APCR shells and give these guys smoke, and then have an anti-tank version of the Su-76 in the anti-tank tab instead. So, honestly, I find that would be a bit better, as the smoke is pretty useful on these chaps. But the main artillery unit we're going to be using is Katyushas. Katyushas are great. Katyushas are Katyushas. You just Katyusha things. Rocket artillery is always rather useful. As well, you got an anti-tank gun position, you Katyusha it. There's some Panzer IVs over here, Katyusha them. Rocket artillery is no longer as good as they were in the beta, as they do have a longer aim time, which does make them a little bit more tricky to use. But Katyushas they're pretty good. They're really damn good in Universal. And pretty cheap, considering this is pretty powerful rocket artillery. And because it's mobile too, if you're smart and just move them around a little bit every time you do the shot, you're probably not going to get counter-batteried, which is rather nice. And they get a good amount of Katyushas. And you should never really take them vetted, as I don't really think veterancy really helps out when it comes to MLRS accuracy. You can also get off-map 152 mils. They're pretty meh. I don't really find this to be all that useful. And for air power, you got some pretty damn good airplanes. You got a Recon U-2. Unfortunately, it's not an American 1950s spy plane, it's just a Russian biplane with a machine gun on the back. As well as some bombs, so I don't really find these guys to be all that useful. I find using slow recon planes as the Russians is pretty much suicidal, as the Germans usually have pretty good anti-aircraft nets set up, and some pretty decent fighters as well, so it's a bit silly. What is not silly, however, are the Akron B Normandies. Always take these guys out, and preferably in A phase. As you get free 2-star fighters in A phase, not many divisions have yet. And even though it's not the best armament, only a 20 mil and a single 50 cal machine gun, it's pretty fast and it has very good agility, so it's a fantastic dogfighter. Yeah, these little French fighters, I mean, the plane's not French, the pilots in them are French. Pretty awesome. They're pretty damn good. We also got IL-2 light bombers. I never really find these guys to be all that useful. You got IL-2 rocket planes, which I like much more, as they're pretty good at stressing out enemy tanks, anti-tank gun positions. They're much more precision. You just want to hit one unit and do a lot of morale damage throughout. But they're pretty useful in that regard, and they're cheap at 100 points. You also got more Normandy fighters with Yak 9s. Both of them are pretty decent. One with a 20mm cannon, and the other one with a 37mm cannon. They're both pretty good. You can't really go wrong with either, to be entirely honest. And then finally, we got some PE2s. One with a bunch of small bombs, and one with 2 big bombs. Pretty standard stuff. And just quickly over defenses, barbed dryer. Always take barbed dryer. It's probably the best defense thing you can get. Gun pits are pretty useless. Trenches are alright. And bunker maxims are definitely worthwhile, as they're extremely cheap, rather hard to knock out, and they can just stop infantry. So yeah, that is the unit composition of this division. So let's take a look at a deck that I built earlier. So yes, this is a deck that I have built. Now before we get into the nitty-gritty and showcasing why I picked a unit that I picked, I want to make a few things clear. The first one is that now with SD2 compared to SD44 deck building, yes, so many ways you can build a deck, especially these A-tier divisions. There's so many ways you can slice and dice them. You could do A-phase Russes with this division, B-phase Russes, C-phase Russes. You could do heavy anti-tank, you could do tank spam, you can get more infantry, you could do less artillery. There's so many ways you can cut up and use a division. So I am not saying that the deck I'm showing you is the be-all, end-all of all the decks that you can build. This is a good baseline, I'd say, to start off with. But with everyone, you just have different preferences. And just feel free to make changes yourself. I also want to say this deck I'm showing you is definitely a bit more focused around team gameplay compared to 1v1s. In the replay I'm going to show you, and the person who played in that replay in their deck, yeah, is definitely more of a 1v1 focused deck, and you're going to see why. But nonetheless, let's take a look at this T34 spam deck, quite literally. We're taking Juggernaut income, because it gives us the most points later on at 220. Yeah, it's like, that's a lot of T34s, that's 4 of these guys per minute, and with money left over, which is pretty nice. So with Recon, we're only taking Doziers, as we just take them with the arm transport, so we have double the Recon units, essentially, which is definitely worthwhile, as we're rather lackluster in terms of Recon slots. Infantry, for A-phase, we take Guards for unvetted, just for some infantry spam, and Sapri unvetted, just for some infantry spam as well. We do have some Ogmenchiki to help out our infantry options in A-phase, but we don't get a lot. B-phase is where it starts to get nicer. We take a card of Avtomanchiki for close range support. We take Kizi Comrati, as you get 8 of them per card. This is the only... We don't want to be spending too many card slots on infantry leaders, so this is an extremely cost-efficient card. And then we take some guard DPs in B-phase, unvetted. We just kind of want the numbers. Yeah, I mean, it was preferable to take vetted whenever you can, but in this case we just want numbers. And then Avtomachikis later in C-phase. For transports, in A-phase, I mainly take Studebakers, as they are the fastest on the road, and I just want to get them to the front line as soon as possible. In B-phase, I take some M2s, half-tracks, just for the bit of extra armor. And for the C-phase, I have some Machikis, I just take Studebakers again, just for a bit of extra speed. You can change them up. Oh yeah, because you don't have enough M2s, so that's why I'm taking Studebakers. For tanks, so this is why... Okay, why am I taking so many T-34s to my arse? We have 77 tanks, which is the same amount of infantry that we have. It's a lot of T-34s. Now, everything's unvetted, you may notice. And you may argue that taking the extra veterancy will definitely help out. I mean, why are you ever going to use 77 T-34s, Ring? This is why I'm saying this is for a team game deck. As I find in team games, matches usually last longer, and so just having this many tanks is definitely great, as you're going to outlast pretty much the majority of other Panzer divisions in a team game fight, which is pretty good. And the lower veterancy, or the no veterancy on this, isn't too bad if you're smart. If you use your leader tanks mixed in with your command vehicles, you can pretty much boost all these guys to 2-star veterancy and have a 2-star veterancy blob of T-34-85s, which is pretty scary. And that's what you're really going to want to be using. Anyway, in terms of tank composition, we take some 76s in A phase, as well as one 85-43 in A for a bit of extra heavy fire support. B phase, more 76s, a T-34-85 command, and 2 cards of T-34-1944s. And in C phase, another card of 76s, 22 of them, we're not going to be running out, and 1 card of T-34-85 1944s. It's a lot of T-34s, you're just not going to run out. Yes, the lack of veterancy does hurt you a bit, especially in head-on tank fights, especially against more heavily vetted Tigers and Panthers and Panzer IVs. But once again, just use them with command vehicles. We don't have many command vehicles, I'm not going to lie, so it's rather important to try and keep them alive. But if you do manage to do that, it really does pay off. You just have so many goddamn tanks. You're not going to run out of tanks, period. Full stop. Exclamation mark. All of that stuff. Support, like I said, Occamon Cheekies for helping out our infantry fire support. I always recommend taking a phase supply truck, no matter what the division. As if something gets broken or you run out of ammo somehow in A phase, you definitely want to get them now rather than wait till later. And then a B phase supply truck to help out as well. I like taking ISUs early on, 1 in A and 1 in B phase, unvetted, as you're really just using them for fire support, and the veterancy really does hurt them when you take them with extra veterancy. So we really just want numbers. I find with a lot of units in this game, you really want to be taking them unvetted or at least 1-star veterancy at most. As just the extra going up in veterancy really hurts how many you can get and when you can get them. Like for example, would you want 1 C phase ISU 152 with 2-star veterancy, or would you rather just have 4 unvetted runs? The extra accuracy isn't really going to help on a rather high explosive gun that's already pretty inaccurate to begin with. These will just augment your T-34s, give you a bit of extra fire support, and to help you out in the earlier game to hold off heavier enemy tanks as well as infantry and all that good stuff. Anti-tank, we're really not taking a lot, we're just filling up all the 1-slot cards. As you might as well, you always pretty much want to fill up all the 1-slot cards. I find P2Ss for the A-phase rush, get them into the building quickly, snipe some vehicles, some 45 mils to help guard the more weaker areas of our line for cheap, and then just some GS2s, we're not really going to use them all that often I find, but it's just nice to have some sort of anti-tank gun to use. Anti-air, pretty standard, got an M17 and A phase help out, and then some 37 mils in B phase. Once again, unvetted, you just want numbers. Artillery, we're taking mortar, bikes as a pretty awesome fire support, fast, nimble, and it's still a mortar, which is great. B phase XU-76s, unvetted once again, we just want numbers, more of your regular artillery pieces. I like these over the 120mm mortars, as they're a bit more expensive, and they don't do as much damage compared to the 120mm, but they're pretty hard to counter battery because it's an armoured mobile vehicle. And if worse comes to worse, you got some AP cells if you really need to fight for your life, if somehow your T-34s die. And then we just spam Katyushas and B and C phase. Katyushas are great, you just shut down tank push with Katyushas. If you want to push an area and you know there's a lot of AT guns, you just saturate it with Katyushas and then you push through. They're very great on the offense and very great on the defense. They use up a lot of supply. I find the 8 supply trucks that we have is more than enough, or just enough to get you through most matches. But if worse comes to worse and you're playing a team game, I guess you could ask a friend if they have any supply trucks extra, if that's the case. In airplanes, Yakron B Normandies and A phase, great fighters, very helpful in keeping the skies clear against any Axis early airplay, and also I find them to be pretty good at strafing ground targets as well, even with the lackluster armament. IL-2Ms with rockets and B phase for, well, just hitting precision targets, and then into some more fighters. We're a bit more concerned here with keeping the skies clear rather than exploiting our air power and then bombing stuff as, well, why do we need to bomb stuff when you just have Katyushas? And here in defenses, once again, pretty standard, barbed wire trenches, 2 bunker maxims. But yeah, that's pretty much how I built this deck. Once again, It's more focused for team games. It's pretty beginner friendly, I find, as even if you're brand new to the game and you find you just keep losing tanks, you're gonna always have more tanks to get, which is rather nice. If you feel like you don't need as many tanks, you can always feel free to get them a bit more vetted up, if you so desire. But that's really a reason. We're just T-34 spamming with this division. So overall, the pros of this division, the big one's this T-34 spam. You get a lot. I think you can get the most T-34s in this division if you so desire. If you get really ridiculous, I believe you can get over 100 T-34s if you want. But that's probably a bit too many T-34s, unfortunately. It's also an extremely well-rounded division. For the most part, you have good everything. You have good infantry, good tanks, good anti-tank options, good artillery. All the options are really nice. There's nothing extremely majorly bad about this division. The only con I can really honestly come up with is that you lack the recon slots, but that's not really that big of a deal because you can just do the thing where you take a recon infantry unit, the Doziers, with a recon transport, and you pretty much double the recon availability that you can get, which is pretty damn nice. But yeah, this is a very good division for new players. Just because it's pretty easy to play, there's really not much that wrong with it, and you got a lot of stuff. You got so much stuff. If you run out of stuff, well, you're probably buggered, but that's most likely not going to happen. But without out the way, let's see how this division performs in a 1v1. And we are back, and this is a 1v1 on Ciano, I believe. But nonetheless, down south we have Morozik demonstrating 2nd Guard Tank Corps, and up north we have Chicken Do, who's going to be demonstrating Group Hartnick, so 2 A-tier divisions going at it. If you take a look at Morozik's deck, it is much more different compared to ours. The big thing is he has less T-34s, but many of them are highly vetted at 2-star veterancy. Much less artillery, a lot less anti-tank, a few more ISU 152s with some B phase runs with 1-star veterancy, a little bit more heavy in air power, some T-34 recon tanks, and infantry is a bit more focus on Sapperies and Avtomachikis early on. It's a less spammy division and focus more on the veterancy. So definitely, I'd say a bit better in terms of the 1v1 situation. I think the lack of artillery is definitely going to hinder you quite a bit, especially the lack of Katyushas. It's a really good unit at just routing out enemy positions and also stopping tank pushes. But yeah, nonetheless, let's get this match on the road. Morozik also is taking a balanced income, by the way, or Chicken Do is taking a Vanguard income option. We're also going to be showing the replay timer here, as we're going to be doing some times 2 speed to get through the match. This is a rather long match, as you can tell. And also, spoiler alert, Morozik's going to win. Pretty much all the replays I'm going to show here is going to be the division that we're demonstrating is going to win. But yeah, he's going to be rushing to this center town here. This is a pretty important area to get to, especially early on, as it's rather hard later on once the enemy sets up an anti-tank position or just fire support along the ridgeline. But you can also do the same thing. He's not sending too much into the town here, just some defensive Avtomachikis on the right side. He's got some T-34s and Avtomachikis as well. And he's going to try to get into the opposing side forest. While Chicken Do... With Group Hartnick, it does have some rather scary tanks with those Tigers. You have a pretty decent amount of Tigers. And also some good air power as well. Yeah, he's going to manage to get into the town at least, and because he is using the M2s, these ersatz MGs aren't really going to be able to do anything against those armored transports. So that's one of the benefits of using the M2s over the Studebakers early on, is that they won't get shot at by small arms fire. But he is managed to take a position. Also, we can't see the flags on this map, as this is a slightly older replay, so it's bugged, so I do apologise about that. So we'll have to just take a look on the minimap in that regard. But we're going to be having T-34s and T-34s over here. Morozik does have the 2-star T-34 1943s bumped up to 1-star the leader, so they're going to be pretty powerful, while Chicken Do only has pretty much 76 models of T-34s. They're not going to be as good against more... Oh, it's a T-34-76, my bad. I thought it was an 85. But still, it's 3-star veterancy. It's going to be pretty good. And using the Akron B Normandy for strafing run effect. Or the Ak-90 Normandy. I do apologise. And he's going to be getting out of dodge as a Messerschmitt does try to chase him out. But he will be able to get out of here easy peasy. But his leader unit did get bailed out, yeah. And his other 76 has fallen back a bit. So he's not going to be able to provide ample fire support to stop those T-34s. In the town in the middle, not doing too great. The Ultimate Cheekies can't really push as they have short-range weaponry and it's a bit of an open field. But the Rate Jaegers are going to be moving up. And honestly, these guys are a pretty tough match for the Ultimate Cheekies as they do have those STGs. And STGs are really good. They're really good weaponry. And these Hussars at long range are pretty scary as well with their 3 machine guns. We also have mortar half-track as well, which is also a pretty nasty thing to fight against. Yeah, his Ultimate Cheek is going to get spotted. He's going to be rushing up T-34s. Fortunately, he has 2 Panzer Strike squads here. So, and these T-34s are rather close range. But he's just going to have one covering the road and one to cover the right-hand flank. And if we look into the left-hand side over here, he did manage to get into the town and hold it, which is going to be 2 nice victory points here and here under his control and just using Ultimate Cheekies. I find Ultimate Cheekies very, very good at holding towns, even though they don't have long-range weaponry. That's kind of a benefit of this, because you wait for the infantry to get really close, and then you unload with PPSHs, and an open ground versus pretty much any infantry, PPSHs will just shred through you. You know, he's using his ISU 152 to fight the Tiger here, which is probably not the best idea. The Tiger does have the advantage. He's also using his T... Oh, never mind, he does get the kill. Command T-34 definitely helping out the veterancy. But still, it's a rather risky engagement to take, as this thing does reload pretty slowly. And the Tiger can pen you. Unfortunately, he only got a load of wounded. It also has a load of wounded, which does you pretty bad. But it's better than having your tank being blown up. And he's mainly just using the 76 model T-34s early on. He does have one card of those T-34 43s. 85 43s to bring out, but mainly the second of the 76s. And it's working okay for him. I mean, over here on the right hand side, Chicken Do is hitting him rather hard. His T-34 is holding out pretty well, but now he has lost all his infantry here, so his tanks are going to be blind as a bat. He definitely needs some recon and preferably some anti-air / fighter support, as these Messerschmitts are going to start strafing his tanks easy peasy like. And this is going to be a pretty tough A phase for Morozik in general, as, well, his income disparity is pretty large. You know, and also Chicken Do probably has more A phase heavy units, as he is taking a Vanguard income division. And his 76 T-34s here are running into some nasty trouble with some 45mm anti-tank guns. These are the Russian runs. Once again, I really like his 45mm, even though they're being used by enemy in this case, but they can get some good criticals, as you can tell. And he's rushing in some guards DPs trying to get to the town. While these 45mm are pretty much focused on the ISU and T-34, it should be able to get in there. Just take his to ×2 speed. But the right hand side is pretty much completely collapsed. He didn't really bring in a reinforcement, and he did bring us T-34s, but they're not going to do all that well against Panzer Shreks. And honestly, the Group Hartnick infantry is definitely much better. Those Rate Jaegers with the MP-44s, the Hussars, Golozzo, the 3MG Hungarian infantry pretty scary at long range. You have no infantry that can really compete against that at long range for the Russians. You know, Morozik is trying to put his pressure along this left-hand side here, as he is trying to get up on top of the hill. And it's honestly a pretty good call, bringing in more guard TPs. But we do have an ME-410 with anti-tank capabilities. He doesn't... Oh, he's going for the ISU. Oh no, T-34 actually. He does kill it. And Morozik did bring out a Yak-90, but he did evac it immediately, as he does see those 2 Messerschmitts out and about. Chicken Do is now starting to flank for the Tiger, and it's a very good position for the Tiger here, as it pretty much shut down this entire road, and will prevent Morozik from bringing in reinforcements. And he's using his guard TPs at long range, but he's probably not going to have the best time. Fortunately, Chicken Deer isn't bringing up his half tracks to provide some infantry fire support. Left hand side here, he's got the 45 mils and T-34 fighting another T-34. And because Chicken Deer has really good air superiority at the moment, he's just using these ME-410s to great effect. Almost knocking out that T-34, but that's not going to be the case. But we've got this huge flank of T-34s here. Only one after Machikis. And if we just take a look from Morozik's point of view, on the right hand side he's pretty blind as a bat. Especially now that he's lost all his infantry. Only at close range can he see Ilsa. So now he's finally bringing in some infantry reinforcements. But Chicken Deer's got a very nice 2-flag advantage over Morozik. And once again, this ME-410 is just doing some tremendous work on Chicken Deer's side. Yeah, in how Morozik's deck is built up, his A phase isn't entirely strong, and B phase is really starts to get more of those T-34-85 or 2-star veterancy, which will be a rather tough fight for the Tigers to deal with. Now, Morozik is kind of halted at the moment. He really does need to bring out some anti-air, which is what he's doing at the moment with the 37 mils. And on the right hand side, he does have an 85 T-34 and moving up some after Machikis. It's a rather hard area to use after Machikis. So I've seen this light forest as they can get killed rather easily once they're spotted, but you've seen the heavy forest here. They can do some serious work. Finally, he's bringing up one of his Yak 9Ts out. His anti-aircraft unit has been pinned down, But he has managed to get behind the ME-109. There we go, and does get the kill. It's going to be pretty important to try to keep that air superiority up. The Chicken Deer does have some AA of his own, only a single 20 mil on the back of a half track, so nothing all that scary. And he really wants to try and kill this ME-410 more than anything. That's been a huge pain in his ass, but he's not going for it, unfortunately. Oh, now he is. Oh, he is. He has given the attack order, and that should kill the big bloody plane. There we go. One strafe and run, and kaboom. He already lost all his other T-34s here. He only has 85 left. He definitely, like, some guard DP, some sappery, longer range infantry definitely be a bit more of a useful option in this area. This middle area is not going all that well here. He does get some Ogamenchiki and more Aftermanchikis, but it's going to be pretty hard to get in close range. I mean, right Jaegers and MG squad Hungarians are really scary to fight against. Really, really scary to fight against. Also, these guys have semi-auto rifles as well, which helps out quite a bit. But yeah, Morozik is not doing all that well. It's really just this center area here, which is really doing his head in, as he's lost 1, 2, 3, if we count here, like 4 flags almost in this one area. And the ME-109s are getting some good strafing runs here. 37 mils. It's in an alright spot. I mean, probably not being that close to the forest is a good idea, as it's blocking his line of sight most likely. Yes, it is. Well, I mean, as usual of AA guns, you want to try to keep them in the open, or at least in light forest at least. Unless you want to use them as an anti-tank gun or fire support, yeah, and keep them in a heavy forest. He definitely wants to bring in probably like a tank over here. There is one Tiger, however, that he needs to deal with. And also just trying to rout out all the Chicken Deer's infantry is I think going to take him some time. And on the middle, or left hand side, I should really say, this is more of the middle area. He still has some infantry and even sneaking up a 45mm anti-tank gun up here to try and help out a bit, but he's a little bit outnumbered. Unfortunately, Tiger has moved away, so he can bring up reinforcements up the road again. Really, his big concern is probably trying to break his Boge in this area. And he's moving up the close range infantry. He moves all these guys out at once. He should be able to deal with the right Jaeger, so the Hungarian MG squad is giving them some rather adequate fire support as they fall back. And this is the problem of using the short range infantry. He is using smoke pretty effectively with the flamethrower squad to try to keep these Abtaman Cheekies alive. And he's bringing up an ISU 152 to fight his Tiger, but it's also a Pack 40 in this position. Really, the Tiger's buggered off and it's just the Pack 40 engaging. And, oh, the ISU kind of missed the Pack 40 but killed the command unit instead. So that's how that works. If he can just shoot again, but he is getting loaded knocked out. So one problem with the ISUs is that slow reload time really hurts if you don't have a helping tank or helping hand. And oh, the ISU, oh, he doesn't have line of sight. He's just a little bit out of range, unfortunately. It's really just a T-34 doing all the fighting. But he's going to be doing a strafe and run with Normandy and does get the kill. So he's slowly popping his Boge. It's just this one area. And because he hasn't brought out any bombers or any artillery units, which would definitely help out in just stressing out his units and moving up the Abtaman Cheekies, it's going to be a bit tough for him to try and deal with it. He is just throwing tanks at the problem. He's also lost quite a bit of ground over here. I think it's just really due to the fact that I think if you try to buy units here, they spawn over here, so you go around this way and then they get killed. He's bringing out some IL-2 rocket planes. IL-2s are really nice, as they are armoured, as they do have very good resilience for a single engine plane. So they can take a lot of damage, even against fighter planes as well. And then not that terrible as fighters. They're not the best fighters, mind you. They're slow and bad agility. But if you get enough of them or another fighter helping out, they can help out quite a bit. And they got pretty decent weaponry for once they do get behind something. Morozik, he's in a little less of a worse position now. Only a 10 to 14, but he is still losing. And once again, he's just rushing infantry here. He does have some tanks to help out. And yeah, if the Abtaman Cheekies and the Hussars pinned down, he should be able to just tear them a new one. And he's going to be flanking his T-34 here to kill the Tiger. And at close range of 2-star veterancy, he's going to kill them easy peasy. These 2-star T-34s are really quite good when it comes to the anti-tank role. He's just dealing with this one right Jaeger here, and now he's starting to get some ground. He just needs to bring up probably just a cheap tank here, some more infantry that help deal with his Ersatz troop, and they're not really all that scary. Heck, even the Guard CP could probably kill them at long range, but they don't really have the line of sight, unfortunately, as they're stuck in that forest. On the right hand side, he's definitely been slowed down. It's definitely been good to have, you know, bomber planes and artillery to help rout out Chicken Dew's positions. It's just the one problem with Morozik's deck is that lack of artillery definitely hurts. And artillery is pretty much the king of battle in SD2. So just bring Katyusas, guys. Bring Katyusas. He's fighting this Tiger over here. It's probably not going to go too well for the T-34. The Tiger did get first shot. But with his other T-34s here, the nice thing is that you can usually get 2 T-34s per Tiger. Even though they're rather similar in terms of pricing, I usually just find that you just usually get more T-34s out than the Germans do, just due to the availability. But yeah, this one Tiger's getting some really good kills. This ISU not being the most effective when it comes to the anti-tank role. We've got some Hetchers as well, and these Hetchers are going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. They're definitely going to help out that Tiger quite a bit. And he does lose the ISU once again. The left-hand side is also a lot less lackluster now for Morozik, as he pretty much lost everything over here. And Chicken Dew's going to start pushing in with some Jaeger Pioneers, as well as Right Jaegers. Right Jaeger, or I can also call them Cavalry Jaegers, etc. The Reiter, I can't say it properly. It's all German to me. He's pushing this 1T-34 pretty ballsy. And yeah, it's going to pay off. That's really not going to pay off for him at all. There's a Panzer Strike Squad there. Oh no, he killed a Panzer Strike Squad. And they got some Right Jaegers as well, but he's going to pull off. As much as it's really tempting to rush in T-34s and whatnot, I usually don't find it to be a great idea. Especially if you don't have infantry or recon units to help back you up. In this case it did work, as fortunately there wasn't any anti-tank behind the enemy front line. So he's going to kill these infantry. Unfortunately, infantry didn't have that much in terms of anti-tank weaponry as well. But tanks are blind as a bat in SD2. They cannot see shit. So you really want to make sure there's recon and infantry nearby with your T-34 blobs. As if you just, even though it's pretty tempting, and the kind of the entire point of this division is to get T-34 blobs and just push one area with T-34 85s. If you do it without recon, they're just going to run into an AT gun or Marder in some forest, light forest, and they're just going to pick you off one by one. And over here, it is working, I will admit. As you guys realize there's nothing here at the moment, and it is actually going to, almost going to pay off. Mortar did manage to get into the forest to cover himself, and he is going to bring in some sappers to help secure the area. He's forced to unload a little bit earlier, so his T-34 is now a bit unguarded. And then bringing in some Yak-19 Normandies. Now he's got a bit of extra air power. Yo, he did lose his anti-aircraft unit, unfortunately. I think he's going to get a pretty decent engagement on that ME-109, but once again, his ME-410 didn't kill the T-34, but got some good critical hits. But now we're on to C-phase. We've been in C-phase quite well. Morozik is still losing pretty bad in terms of points, but he is starting to tick down Chicken Dew's defenses. I mean, even with this more heavily vetted division compared to the one that I built, he still has long game advantage over Chicken Dew in this case. Even against a lot of divisions in this case, you can just get a lot of T-34s. You get so many T-34s in this division. Even if you're not doing all that great early on, your second, you can usually bring it back just due to the amount of bloody tanks that you have. You're just going to outnumber the enemy. And now over here, I mean, you always want to try to get 2 T-34s and 1 Tiger tank. I mean, you always want to have two. You always want to have more tanks shooting at 1 tank. I'm trying to think of a way to say it. You always want quantity over quality, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's just bringing in some more ISUs, some more T-34s in this area. And over here, yeah, Tiger does get the kill. He's also, yeah, see now he's just bringing in all the T-34s. He's got the income to do so now. You can still only get like 1 and like almost 2 T-34s a minute with balanced income. So it's not as nice as a Juggernaut income where you can get 2 T-34 85s a minute. I believe you can get 2 1943 T-34s a minute, just not 1944 models of 85mm, that is. And yeah, it really seems like Morozik is really just using 1943 models in this case. I think the 44s definitely would have been a bit more useful in dealing with these Tiger tanks. Due to the extra penetration really helps out. You see he's bouncing a lot of his shots at his range, but yeah, with T-34 blob, 2-star veterancy, it doesn't matter. You just outgun them. Even shooting on the move, he's still chasing that Tiger tank down. Yeah, his accuracy is probably pretty piss poor shooting at the move. There we go, got some spalling. Yeah, this is just more T-34s. You just get T-34s now. And if all these 2-star veterancy runs, it's definitely going to help out. Now, Chicken Dew still has some Tigers and whatnot up his sleeve, and those hatches are still pretty annoying to deal with, as they are pretty well armoured for the price. Now, is he going to crest over the hill is a big question, because that would be kind of silly to do without... He does have a recon unit here, but he doesn't have the best line of sight. He can only really cover the forest. Let's see what he can see. Let's see what he can see. He can't see anything up here at all, so it'd be... He doesn't even see anything in the town. Fortunately, infantry in town don't have AT once again. Chicken-D doesn't have that much in terms of AT infantry. So he's going to be rather beneficial, but still, he really does need maybe a recon T-34 infantry before he can really do any pushes over here. Right hand side, he is starting to lose his grip as, well, with the Tiger tank and the MP-44 infantry, they're just picking off what the Russian dudes run by run. But the nice thing now is Morozik does have a superiority of all his fighters, so he's going to stop any silly ME-410 gun runs from blowing him up. Once again, fortunately for him, Chicken-D doesn't have AT infantry here. He can just rush the T-34 right next to the Pioneer. Oh no, he threw a satchel charge. I'll just shoot you with my 85mm cannon and machine guns. Yeah, but now, if Chicken-D wants to engage his T-34 blob and come across here, it's going to be engaged with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tanks, pretty much. It's pretty scary. And I do like how Morozik does have all his T-34s spread out. It's the one nice thing about using more vetted T-34s over the unvetted runs, is that you can spread them out a bit because they already have the veterancy. Well, the unvetted ones, you want to keep them close to your command T-34. And now finally he's getting some T-34 dev because he's going to be able to see shit. And once again, they're getting T-34s on the right hand side. This is T-34, guys. This is the division. It's T-34s. T-34, T-34. You see those memes of Russian hordes of T-34s going across the open plains? This is this division right here. This is all you do. You just get T-34s. I said T-34 so much in this video. I don't know what to say. You just get T-34s. All you need. It's all you need. T-34s, probably some infantry because, but just T-34s. I'm just speed it up a bit more because we kind of got the gist now about how to play second guards. Right hand side, this is T-34s. You just eventually outnumber the enemy with your tanks. And look, he's doing some bombing runs here. Not really getting any hits. Does he see anything up here now? No, he doesn't. It would probably be a good idea to get some infantry here to help spot, but he doesn't really have that much infantry in his division. Maybe he's ran out, I haven't really kept count, but once again his air power is doing pretty good. He's got a lot of those IL-2s now, up and about, doing some bombing runs. He's just got a 13 to 11 here. It's not a huge advantage, but it's still enough. And he does have the late game advantage of income and unit availability. Right hand side, his push didn't go well. I mean, one of his two of his T-34s are pretty much out of action. Here he's bringing up supply truck now to help out. Still, once again, it probably would have been a good idea if Morozik actually brought out at least some of his Su-76s. He doesn't have many, but artillery is really useful to have, especially Katyushas. Or he's bringing Katyushas. But he has such a really nasty defensive line to try and push through, as so many T-34s. Like over here it's 2 T-34s and 1 Tiger. Over here it's a lot of T-34s versus 1 Tiger. He's going to go around the corner here, and at close range, does manage to get first shot. Hits veterancy advantage over the Tiger tank. And yeah, he's pretty much just going to kill it easy peasy. As I usually find when you're fighting against Germans, I do take the unvetted Tigers over the vetted runs, as you get much better availability options. So, that's kind of a nice thing about fighting Tigers, as they're usually a little bit unskilled. Yeah, now it's moving the C-34 blob here. There's nothing really, Chicken-D can really do about it. But even if it's less numerous, more vetted T-34 blob division, he still has lots of T-34s. There's still a lot of tanks. You probably won't be able to really reinforce many, because I think he's pretty much got most of them out already. So if he loses all of them, he's going to be in a bit of a pickle, but you shouldn't lose all these T-34s. Now he has all these IL-2s. He does have evac Winchester turned off, so the planes will still stick around after they dropped their bombs. And for the IL-2s, that's probably a pretty good idea, as you can use them for pretty effective strafing runs. Here's us moving through. Does lose the anti-aircraft unit, unfortunately, and really good idea to have some infantry and recon here, as is. I think the main reason he hasn't pushed this area is he just can't see anything. He did lose his... He does have T-34 with Devkos Holden. This is a good defensive position. There's still a long time to victory, but he's making some progress on the right-hand side. And yeah, T-34 Blob beats one Tiger. And yeah, Morozik's... Oh, Chicken Deuce is bringing in more Tigers. But he's a little bit outgunned and outvetted in that regard. He's just going to pull back for safety reasons. Yeah, T-34 spam, guys. That's all you do. You even got some GIS-2s over here to help out. Help out. Once again, the 44 models of T-34s would probably be a bit of a better pick for the majority of the T-34s in C phase. As those APCR cells help out with Tiger and Panther engagements. Or in this case, it's Tiger engagements. An IR-2 bombing run on the mortar. That's going to kill it. Those little bombs are pretty nice at dealing with soft targets. Once again, you can only kill one soft target with it. I kind of like HC cluster bombs and how they work. Still pretty good knock. He's blind strafing those Tigers, yeah, but yeah. Chicken Dude got some fighter planes out, but that's not really going to help out. And they're just huge blob here. And unfortunately for him, Chicken Dude just doesn't have much anti-air. It is Group Hartnick, so you can just keep flying around. As Group Hartnick has, you can get maybe 2 anti-aircraft cards if you want. But Chicken Dude has seen the writing on the wall and does call a surrender. A rather long match. I find with this division, you're going to be playing a bit more longer matches, as you really just want to take advantage of the availability of units that you can get. In terms of team stats, you did get more kills over the enemy, and by a pretty decent amount, roughly 1,000 or so. But see, early on, he did take some losses, so he did kill some Tigers, which is nice. But yeah, as you see, he took some pretty heavy losses from 7 minutes all the way to the 9-minute mark. Even then, he just took some pretty big chunks here and there, but also he kills a decent chunk of Chicken Deuce stuff as well. And once we get to the later game, as you can see, still pretty back and forth. In terms of kills here, nothing really too outstanding. Except for the Yak-9. That's actually really good for the Yak-9. You see, even killed some anti-tank guns as well. Get quite a few anti-tank guns. You really want to be using your fighters for strafing. Like I said, they're pretty damn good strafers. One T-34 killed a few stuff here, but nothing else really too crazy. With these sorts of divisions, your kills are definitely a bit more spread out. And in terms of losses, yeah, is it the Chicken Dude's infantry is definitely much better suited. That's really good infantry for Group Hartnick, and the Tigers have knocked out quite a few infantry and tanks as well. But yeah, that's 2nd Guards Tank Corps. Look, you see this right here? It's T-34. It's all you do. You just get T-34s and you're in. A very good division for new players. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's a nice division. It's one of the best divisions in game, if I'm being entirely honest here. But yeah, this has been another Steel Division 2 Divisional Overview. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as usual, please just take it easy.